For the disabled, worse is to come. These words are from a report by the think tank Demos. Since the first changes to benefits in 2010, Demos has followed the impact of the cuts through the Destination Unknown series, reporting twice a year on how 6 disabled households have fared. The study shows disabled people stand to lose $9 billion in benefits over the course of this Parliament. The fourth and final instalment of the project provides an overview of experiences of these families and identifies the risks they and other disabled people face in the near future. Shockingly, it reveals that the worst is yet to come. The Welfare Reform Act has already had a significant effect, but the Act contains measures that will reduce the income of disabled people and their families even further over the next 2 years. The Demos report reveals the human cost of this loss in income, increasing isolation, mental health problems, greater burdens on informal carers. It concludes that the government must change impact assessments so they can assess the cumulative impacts of cuts on households. It is increasingly difficult for disabled people to participate in everyday life. This is the foreword to the final Demos report written by Richard Hawkes, Chief Executive of Scope. Shortly after the formation of the coalition government in May 2010, the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Ian Duncan Smith, laid the foundations for one of the most radical programmes of reform to the welfare benefit system since its creation. But his speech, Welfare for the 21st Century, included a note of caution. The government would have to constantly remind themselves that we are here to help the poorest and most vulnerable in society. Since this time, the government has initiated £18 billion worth of cuts to the benefit system. At the same time, it has reduced funding settlements for local authorities across the country. The fallout of these cuts is becoming more evident as councils look to raise eligibility criteria for social care, increase charges for services, and in many cases even close them down. As the Coalition's programme of spending cuts and welfare reforms has become clearer and more defined, so too has the impact on disabled people and their families. It was evident from the early days that the Coalition's deficit reduction programme would have severe, if unintended, consequences for disabled people. Fuelled by our joint belief that these consequences and effects needed to be documented and scrutinised, Demos and Scope set out to map the impact on disabled people with the launch of the first Destination Unknown report in October 2010. For a 2-year period, we have been following 6 disabled families, and through their experiences we have seen the policy landscape undergo a seismic shift, culminating in the Welfare Reform Act 2012. The stories of our families reveal with startling clarity the depth and breadth of the impact cuts to state support and services are having on their lives. Their stories are not unusual. Many families like them up and down the country are increasingly coming under huge stress and pressure. We have seen evidence of declining mental health, exacerbated by fear for the future, of physical and emotional strain, as informal carers bear the brunt of losing the support and services they once relied on. And most of all, we are seeing it becoming increasingly difficult for disabled people to participate in everyday family and civic life. This has all taken place against a backdrop of growing hostility towards those who claim disability and welfare support. By exposing the real-life consequences, both intended and not, of the government's reforms, the Destination Unknown series has helped demonstrate how the impact of its reforms run directly counter to its own vision for stronger communities that support families, and has highlighted the real and urgent need for a rethink. This report should be a wake-up call to the government, and we urge it to take action now to reassess its reforms or risk sending a clear message to disabled people that it may not stand by its own commitments to help the poorest and most vulnerable in our society, after all. To find out more about Demos and the report, you can go to their website, www.demos.co.uk. Their address is Magdalen House, 136, Tooley Street, London, SE1 2TU. To read the full report, you can either go to the SDN website, which is shropshire-disability.net, or you can go to www.demos.co.uk and search for Destination Unknown.